guys, I am doing another video today, and this one is exciting because it means the year is halfway over. And by exciting, I mean terrifying. So this is the mid-year book freakout tag, or should it be called the mid-year longest name in the world? Because that's what it is. So this is just recapping some of the books that I have read already in 2020 and some of the books that I plan to read for the rest of 2020. The first question is, how many books have you read this year? So far, I have read 36 books, which I'm very impressed with, very proud of, really excited about. The second question is the best book that I've read in 2020, and I would have to give that to probably Summer of '69 by Ellen Hilderbrand, What Happens in Paradise by Ellen Hilderbrand, or anything by Riley Sager. Ellen Hilderbrand's books this year have just been like really big hits for me. I've always loved reading her books, but this year has kind of elevated her status. Congratulations, Ellen, to like probably one of my favorite authors. I'm always gonna read her books. They're like a little bit meatier, but still beach reads. And then Riley Sager, his books are just phenomenal thrillers. I've read a lot of thrillers this year, and his are by far the best, consistently. So yeah, those are my favorite books for 2020 so far. Okay, the next question is a new release that came out already in 2020 that you haven't read yet but want to. So for this one, I chose Again by E. Lockhart. She is such a good author. And I've read all of the books that she has, I think, maybe not, but I think I've read all of her young adult books, and We Were Liars is up there as one of my favorite books of all time that I often forget about because it is just so beautiful and tragic. We love tragedy. I am super pumped about this book. I have literally no clue what it's about. I don't need to know what it's about. I just know I'm going to read it because it's by her and I'm excited. The next question is also about new releases, but it's about new releases that are coming out in the second half of 2020 that I am excited to read. First up is 28 Summers by Ellen Hilderbrand. I'm super pumped to read this. Again, lately I have found that I don't know anything about the books that I'm reading going into them. I just know that I've heard good things about them and I put them on my TBR, and then once they become available at the library, I read them and I forget what they were about. So 28 Summers, don't know what it's about, just know I'm going to read it because it's an Ellen book. Riley Sager is coming out with a book this month called Home Before Dark. Again, don't know what it's about. I don't want to know. Nobody tell me. Don't tell me. I will figure it out when I read it. I'm excited for that. I'm pretty sure that comes out in June, either June or July. And then The Air Affair by Heather Cox and Jessica Morgan comes out, I think, in September, which is good because it is the sequel to The Royal We, and I think I need to reread The Royal We because I know everything about the royal family, obviously, but I forgot what happened in the fictional version in their book, which is basically Will and Kate fan fiction. So I need to go back and reread that and remember, or at least reread the end or a summary and see what happens, but I'm super pumped for the second one. Next up is a bummer. It is the biggest disappointment of 2020. I have two. The first one, I'm including it even though I didn't finish it yet, which is so sad, and I'm sure I will change my opinion on this in the future, but it is The Toll by Neil Shusterman, which is part of the Scythe series. I loved the first two Scythe books. Two of my favorite fantasies of all time. So good. Just perfect. And I could not get into the third one for the life of me. It is very disappointing. I think I just need to reread the second one because I think that was a big part of it, was that I was not remembering what happened at the end of the second one. But also, I still think the third one just went down its own path and was so different than the first two that I was confused and it was not the same. So sad. I'm sure I will finish it eventually, but that was a huge disappointment because I was so looking forward to that one. And then my second biggest disappointment of the year, which I hesitate to say this, but it's true. It wasn't a bad book, but The Glass Hotel by Emily St. John Mandel was a very, very hyped up book for me this year because her book, Station 11, her debut novel, is probably my favorite book of all time. So obviously, going into the author's sophomore book, probably gonna fall flat if her first one was my favorite of all time. I knew that going into it, but it still didn't live up to Station 11. I'm not super surprised by that, but it was not a relatively bad book. It was just a little bit of a disappointment for me. On the other end of the spectrum are my biggest surprise books of the year, surprise books that I enjoyed. So the first one is All Adults Here by Emma Straub. I think that's how you say her name. This is a really good book. I have read her other two books. I think it's Modern Lovers and The Vacationers, I want to say. And those books were okay. I enjoyed them, but I really liked All Adults Here. It was all of her books are very character-driven, family-driven, and this one was just very, I don't want to say relatable, but it was a lot easier to invest yourself in these characters. So I really enjoyed it and was surprised by how much I enjoyed it. And then secondly, I also really enjoyed In 5 Years by Rebecca Searle, I don't know. I've talked about this in my May reading wrap-up, I think, but I read her first book, Dinner List, and did not enjoy it at all. Thought it was too sad. It had so much potential. And I've heard people say the same thing about In 5 Years, but I really liked it. I thought it was super captivating and entertaining, and it surprised me. Okay, so the next question is underrated gems that you've recently discovered. I would not say I discovered this book. I'm sure other people are talking about it, but it is Follow Me by Kathleen Barber. It's a thriller that I just finished, like yesterday, maybe. And it is super entertaining because it follows a social media influencer who is being stalked. You don't know who her stalker is. The ending was a super big twist and surprise. I think it covers like 3 or 4 perspectives, and I haven't heard a ton of people talk about it yet. So it's really good and super, it's not lighthearted, but the element of having somebody who is a social media influencer in a thriller does make it a little lighthearted and satirical. So the next question is kind of funny. It's a book that made you cry this year. To be honest, even though I'm massively pregnant, I have not cried in a lot of books this year. I don't think I've read a lot of tear jerkers. So I didn't have a long list to pick from this, but I definitely cried in this one, and it's a funny one to pick. But it was Open Book by Jessica Simpson. Yes. I did not expect to like this as much as I did, but she was so vulnerable and honest. And I can't remember the exact part I cried, but I think it had something to do with like grandparents dying, and it was really sad. And you could just like feel her pain and raw emotion. So I might have teared up. It is what it is. So the next one is a book that made you happy. For that, I'm just going to say, obviously, anything by Ellen Hilderbrand, but I've sung her praises enough. So I will say anything by Sophie Kinsella. She is a classic chick lit author. Her books will never make you feel anything but just like warm fuzzies and cozies and butterflies and rainbows and kittens. So if you need something happy, that author, start anywhere with any of her books. They're the perfect pick-me-up. So last but not least is my goals for the rest of the year. My goal for this year on Goodreads, follow me on Goodreads, I don't really know how that works, but try anyway, is to read 52 books. That was my goal last year, and I think I read 54 or something. So this year I'm at 36. What's 52 minus 36? 16. So my goal is to read 16 more books this year. I think I can do it, even though I'm about to have a baby. I don't know. I hope I can. Do kids' books count? Somebody let me know. But that's my goal, is to read 16 more books this year to hit my reading goal. I want to keep reading after I have her, because obviously kids take a lot of your time, blah, blah, blah. Reading is still going to be a priority, not over her, but still I want to make it a priority. And then I also want to read to her, because I want to pass on that love of reading and find some really good kids' books. So that is it for this tag video. I hope you enjoyed watching. It was really fun to talk about the books that I've read this year, and I have some really good books that I'm excited about in the lineup for the rest of the year. Thanks for watching!